Let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastapayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhakti By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed, the practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Pranam Brahmasamhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Bhagavan Rishi Shreyasaya Lokasya The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantharas, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation God. It is compiled by the incarnation God of Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Surabhyaya Namaha Om Surabhyaya Namaha Om Surabhyaya Namaha Yam Kripa Vande Shri Govinda Yam Kripa Vande Shri Govinda Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class, and we are reading today, since we are in Vrindavan, therefore it is quite appropriate that we read from the 10th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to Vrindavan. This needs to be translated.
I'm not good at translation.
I don't know. I mean, you work that out because I don't think you follow the this. So then,
I don't think so.
and anyways, you work it out with the resident. Work it out with his son, whatever. Something. We are reading from Canto 10, Chapter 11. Somebody who can translate, somebody can translate, so just be close to him, or at least
I think Mataji can translate.
she should come close to him and just a few things he can translate. So everyone kindly keep quiet, kindly.
Translate in Hindi.
Chapter 11, which is entitled The Childhood Pastimes of Krishna. Canto 10, Chapter 11, text number 37. Evam Rajaukasam Krityam Yaschantau Bala Chastita Kala Vakyai Sva Kalena Vasta Palau Abhuvatuhu Evam Brajau Kasampritim Yaschantau Balachestitai Kala Vakyai Svakalena Vasta Palau Abhuvatuhu Evam Brajau Kasampritim Yaschantau Balachestitai Kala Vakyai Svakalena Vasta Palau Abhuvatuhu Evam Brajau Kasampritim Yaschantau Balachestitai Kala Vakyai Svakalena Vatsa Palau Bhuvatuhu
Evam Rajau Kasampritim Yasantau Balachestitai Kala Vakyai Svakalena Vatsa Palau Bhuvatuhu
Evam Rajau Kasampritim Yachantau Balachestitai
Kalavakyai Svakalena
Vatsa Palau Bhuvatuhu
Evam Rajau Kasampritim
Yachantau Balachestitai Kala Vakyai Svakalena Vatsa Palau Bhuvatuhu.
So everyone can repeat in English and you can translate in Hindi. Evam. In this way. Braja Okarsam. To all the inhabitants of Braja. Is there another book? Oh, he has. Bhagavatam is there. Give them a copy.
No more.
It's Hindi. It's in Hindi.
No, that is in English.
That's okay.
They have only one set of Bhagavatam.
We have it right here.
Oh, this is okay. This
Yeah.
is from your side.
We
Yes.
have it on here.
Oh, you have it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Good. Yeah. Fine. Kritim. Pleasure. Yaschantau. Giving. Balachestitai. By the activities and pastimes of childhood. Kalavakyai. And by very sweet broken language. Svakalena. In due course of time. Vatsa Palau. To take care of the calves. Babhuvatuhu. Were grown up. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Okay. In this way, Krishna and Balaram, acting like small boys and talking in half broken language, gave a transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of Braja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the calves. So everyone can kindly repeat. In this way, Krishna and Balaram, acting like small boys, and talking in half-broken language, gave transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of Braja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the calves. Report. It's a short report. we might read a few other verses afterwards to kind of, well, not really, some of the time. So translation. In this way, Krishna and Balaram we read this, right?
Yes.
And
Purport we need to read.
we need to read the purport, yes. As soon as Krishna and Balaram were a little grown up, they were meant for taking care of calves. Although born of a very well-to-do family, they still had to take care of the calves. This was the system of education. Those who were not born in the Brahmana families were not meant for academic education. The Brahmanas were trained in a literary academic education. The Kshatriyas were trained to take care of the state, and the Vaishyas learned how to cultivate the land and take care of the cows and the calves. There was no need to waste time going to school to be falsely educated and later increase the numbers of the unemployed. Krishna and Balaram taught us by their personal behavior. Krishna took care of the cows and played his flute, and Balaram took care of agricultural activities with a plow in his hand. I'll read again the translation. In this way, Krishna and Balaram, acting like small boys and talking in half a broken language, gave transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of Braja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the calves. This particular verse, in many ways, is like the beginning of explanation. It begins to explain how people in the village of Vrindavan were living. And the main focus from this verse and the following verses is in regards to these two small boys, Krishna and Balaram. Maybe they were 5, 6, 7 years of age. And the main activity means as soon as young boys were of that age, as nicely explained here, they were meant to start looking after the small cows, means the calves. It's described later on how hundreds, not thousands, of cows would be daily. Difficult for us to imagine actually, because nowadays people don't have many cows. Most people don't have cows. People in the cities don't have cows. Even now, the situation in India is such that the number of cows are diminishing, reducing. I was traveling for 2 years in different villages, different states of India, and in many villages, unfortunately, you can't even find one bull. Which means that if there's no bull in the village, it's just a matter of time there won't be any more cows. Yeah. And when we begin to understand the Vedic culture in relation to cows and land, because Vedic culture is we could say, founded or supported land and cows, the cultivation of land in a natural way, not like we do in modern day society, and the caring of cows, protection of cows, rearing of cows. We are recently learning a few things I was sharing with you regarding progeny. The word patigri means that they still do like for horses, people who look after horses, people who are, some people are crazy after horses. Papa did say that the horse is the most beautiful animal. Horses are very beautiful. And people who have like race horses, they breed them in a very systematic way so that the pure, we call purebred, right? Yeah. So traditionally in Vedic culture, cows, keeping cows was like that very much. There was no artificial insemination as we find today, and it is not at all recommended as well. And therefore the whole Vedic culture was very much focused on these two aspects of cows and land. And that is why, from a very young age, as we are hearing the description here, young boys who were not Brahmanas, this point is being explained nicely. Brahmanas, traditionally, when the Vedic culture was in place, if somebody was born in a Brahmana family, 99.9% of the time, he would also become a Brahmana. But simply being born in a Brahmana family does not automatically mean that one becomes a Brahmana. It's like if somebody is born in a family where, let's say, the father is a lawyer. Well, if the father is a lawyer and his father was a lawyer, there's good chances that he may also become a lawyer, but it's not automatic. And even to become a lawyer, he would still have to get, proper education, etc. So, those who are not born in Brahmin families, which for Vrindavan is a at that time, 5,000 years ago, we are hearing the description of how Vrindavan was when Krishna and Balaram appeared and were performing their pastimes. Majority of residents in Vrindavan, they were what we call of the Vaishya community. It means farmers. Vaishya means farmers. And therefore, the main occupation naturally for farmers and those who are not Brahmanas and Kshatriyas was to look after the cows and to look after the land. And a very simple but very significant statement that Prabhupada makes in the purport, and I'll just read it again, it's very short but significant. After mentioning that Krishna and Balaram, when they were old enough, they would take care of the cows, Prabhupada says, this was the system of education. To be honest, we cannot understand what that means. Because, in our modern way of living, education means you go to school. But in the Vedic culture, only those who are academically inclined. Nowadays, everyone goes to, of course, there are different levels, there are different subject matters. But in the Vedic culture, it was very clearly defined and clearly understood that only those who had such natural inclination, means the Brahmanas. Brahmanas means the ones who are by nature. By nature, Brahmanas are more in the mode of goodness. We were discussing about the modes of nature. Brahmanas are more in the mode of goodness. Kshatriyas, who are leaders in society, are more passionate. They have to be to get things moving, right? And the Vaishyas, it's like a mixture of passion and ignorance. And then those who are not in these three categories, it doesn't mean that they're useless. It means that they have other occupations which doesn't require so much of, you know, that type of intelligence to deeply study subject matters. Whatever they learn, there are many arts and crafts. India previously was known for its different cottage industry. You know, India was producing the finest cloth, textile, before the British came. The whole thing was smashed and destroyed, actually. We won't get into that. But there's a whole, we call cottage industry, where one can still get natural cloth by hand, made by hand, cotton. As a matter of fact, we are trying to revive this. I know it's difficult to translate simultaneously here. They do that at the UN, but they take a few courses before that. Simultaneous translation. Anyway, a few little things. In the verses that are coming after this one, I mean 38, 39, and a few more verses, it gives a little bit more insight how we can understand that going in the forest, because at that time Vrindavan, Vana, the word Vana means forest. Vrinda, Vana, the forest of Vrinda. Vrinda Devi is Tulasi. Vrindavan is the place of Tulasi. That's why Krishna sent you here. Because she studies herbs and plants and she knows about Tulsi. Yeah, right. So, Vrindavan, there used to be thousands of forests, very big forests. Forests are very, very important in the Vedic culture. They have different names and they have different purposes. For every name, and I don't remember the names of the forest, but they have, like some forest is only for sadhus, for saintly persons to go there and to meditate. And the king would make sure that no ferocious animal would come to disturb the meditation of the saintly persons. Other forests was for everyone. They could go and collect dry wood. Other forests were like just to provide food. You know, nowadays it's being revived also fruit forests. Yeah, different fruit trees, etc. like that. So forest is most important. Practically every village there was a forest connected like that. So, anyways, the point, very important point being made here is that from the Vedic point of view, education is meant to be especially in relation to one's natural aptitude, natural inclination, natural abilities. And, you know, if we look around in society, it's not, rather it's a minority of people who can study for many years and deeply study subject matters, isn't it? Majority of people are more able to do things manually, isn't it? So therefore, the Vedic culture recognizes this is very very clear on this aspect, and therefore cows and land being the we could say the means of occupation for the majority of people, because cows and land are the basis of what we call Vedic economy. Not as we have today, where we have in the last 25 or 30 years depleted over 30%, you may be aware, depleted over 30% of the natural resources on this planet in the last 30 years. And we've been told we have only one planet. So, you know, I mean, there are so many other planets, but because we have, in a very unplanned way, taken, you know, exploited, actually, we have been exploiting Mother Nature, and it's not surprising that Mother Nature is reacting in so many ways, isn't it? And therefore, Vedic culture is very clear on the fact that we that Mother Nature is one of our mothers. We should respect, like we respect our own mother, and we should not exploit Mother Nature in any way. And we should basically, because in the Vedic culture people understand very clearly that the primary aim or purpose of life is to strive for self-realization. Because we've had all kinds of opportunities for sense enjoyment in previous lifetimes. Animals, especially, we see what is their main consciousness? Eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. These are the four main activities. When one comes to the human form of life, those are also there. We need to eat, we need to sleep, majority of people need to mate, and if things don't go well, we need to defend. Mostly verbally, but sometimes physically also. But Shastra is telling us that this human form of life is meant to minimize our material needs in terms of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And the whole Vedic culture is arranged in this way so that by the age of 50, there are four, we call ashramas, or four periods of life, beginning with student life up until the age of 20-25, where one learns the basics of the Vedic culture. And most people actually enter into marriage, and understanding, however, that marriage is meant to be for a limited period of time. By the age of 50, one takes the third, what is called order of life, which is retirement. By the age of 50, the body starts to show signs of, I was mentioning this word, dwindling. Nice word. Dwindling signs means we can't eat so many rasgullas as we used to. We can't digest so easily. We need glasses. They sometimes get stolen by monkeys. Then we know how much we appreciate our glasses. So before things dwindle too much, in the Vedic culture, by the age of 50, one is encouraged to concentrate on preparing oneself actually to leave this body, because that's a known fact that in all species of life, including the human species, at one time we have to leave this body. And that's what they call an experience in a lifetime. For most people. Some people actually do leave their bodies more than once. It's very rare, but it does happen. But for most people, it's like once in a lifetime. And then, so therefore, this lifestyle, which is connected with land and cows, because from people go to the stock market. Modern day societies, many people, they play the stock market. They think that, okay, from my 1 rupee or $1, I can accumulate so many more. But actually, Vedic culture is teaching us that the best stock market, or the best market, is like seeds. You take one seed, just like you take a banyan tree. Seeds are very, very small, and there are, I don't know, I've never counted the seeds of banyan tree. I don't think it's possible to count, but there are hundreds of thousands of seeds, when the tree is fully grown. And with each of these seeds, there's a banyan tree. So you can just imagine, it's like, in other words, that is the best investment. That is why farming is known as, even in the Western country, as the most noble profession. Most noble profession, because you get in return way above what you sow one seed, and you get so many produce. More so when it is done according to the laws of nature in a natural way, etc. like that. So this is something we are as individuals, especially householders, those who are married, their means of livelihood is meant to be centered around cows and lamb. And therefore, one of the objectives of our Krishna consciousness movement, as explained on numerous occasions by our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, is to revive that culture which unfortunately has been kind of put aside and even rejected due to other considerations which are not very Krishna conscious. In other words, most people in the world don't consider that as a priority. I mean, raising one's consciousness, especially spiritual consciousness. So that is why it is recommended that one hear from, especially Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is something that we do every day, that all the devotees should be attentive in following, because by hearing then we can be reminded, we can learn, isn't it? And in this way we can apply in our lives, so that I'll just end on this one very nice statement, which is in the Bhagavatam also. Sarva kama dugamahi, very famous verse quoted often by Srila Prabhupada. Sarva means all, kama, desires or needs. Dugamahi means are provided by mahi. Mahi means a lamb. From the land comes cloth, cotton. From the land comes wood, our homes. Most of our doors are wooden doors. Our food, naturally, comes from the land. Food comes from the land. Housing, dwelling comes from the land. Clothing comes from the land. Medicine, also, actually everything comes from the land. So, Mother Nature, we call her Mother Nature because she's a mother. A mother provides, isn't it? So, in other words, the more we understand this philosophy, then Prabhupada wanted that we not only hear about it, read about it, discuss about it, but he wanted that we actually implement and demonstrate in a practical way by having families living on the lap, Prabhupada would say, on the lap of Mother Nature. So I encourage the devotees to read this particular section of the Bhagavatam, beginning from this particular verse, 10, 11, 37, to get some insights in terms of the traditional lifestyle, the traditional prescribed duties, and especially the traditional type of education. And the more we understand about this, then we can go about, at least to the best of our ability, try to implement which is happening in different places. And we saw yesterday when we went to the farm, where they have a school on one side and then 40 acres of land. One of our devotees, Vishnunam Prabhu here in Vrindavan, was explaining, and he's actually putting into practice, trying to revive this more natural way of living. We can take 2 or 3 minutes, maximum 4. If there's any comments or questions. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Maharaj, where in the Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he mentions about this is actually the real education. So the cow grazing, the whole science, it lies there. So whereas, especially in our institution, that is where Prabhupada says that needs to be overhauled.
Overhauled, yes.
Yes. So how it can be actually, how devotees can actually, they can adopt this kind of system, and why it is not adopting now? What could be the change can be brought?
Yesterday I was giving a Bhagavad Gita class, and I didn't realize at the end of the class, actually I spoke about Gita Nagari. And at the end of the class, one of the Matajis, whom I recognized, she was in the Gita Nagari community in the US. we have a farm community called Gitanagari in Pennsylvania. And at that time, she's initiated by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He's one of our sannyasis, very much promoting self-sufficient. So naturally she was able to relate to the class, Gitanagari, the name of their community. And in response to your question, she commented as follows. She said, my Guru Maharaj and then others have been speaking and encouraging devotees to actually understand and put into practice what is mentioned in the Shastra by Srila Prabhupada. And then she kind of said, but I think it will take some calamity for things to actually happen. It will take some kind of calamity. Isn't it? We are generally quite cozy in our comfort zones. We're accustomed to doing things our way or the modern way, whatever. And to make any kind of, especially, this is like a paradigm shift. There's only two ways it can happen. One is that voluntarily, devotees, by sufficient hearing. Sufficient hearing means it will bring about proper purification. Unless our consciousness is purified, we can't act on good instructions that we are receiving, isn't it? So he's asking this question actually because although these instructions, these purports and whatnot are there in many places, and Srila Prabhupada spoke about it extensively right up until his departure practically here in Vrindavan. We have been very slow. We have been very slow to actually act on this particular instruction. There's a well-known fact which most devotees know and acknowledge that 50%, Prabhupada actually mentioned, 50% of my mission is yet to be fulfilled, which is to reintroduce this more natural lifestyle. Because we're living in a, the whole modern setup is not based on sustainability. Anything that's not based on the concepts of sustainability and self-sufficiency is just a matter of time. It has to come to an end. And history has also shown and demonstrated, if we look at the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, Mongol Empire, all empires have lasted about 200 years. And the US Empire was about 200 years old. So anyone who is good in mathematics should understand that, and Prabhupada also told us that this modern civilization is, he used a very strong word. Prabhupada said, modern civilization is a killing civilization and is a doomed civilization. Yet, even as devotees who have this knowledge, we're not acting on it as we should.
Right.
Isn't it? So, unless devotees hear more regularly, more attentively, and become more serious about the subject matter, as this Mataji at the end of the class mentioned, we have to wait for the roof to cave in. What happened? But then, when that happens, it's like chaos. Prabhupada actually told us the day will come when thousands, hundreds and thousands of people will come to your communities.
Yes.
But we don't have those communities. We have some communities, but not on the scale that Prabhupada wanted. So it means we have to encourage devotees to read these sections, especially to discuss about it, and because ultimately, it has to come naturally, or it cannot be forced.
That means we need to have more Varnashram colleges to educate.
That means that's why we're working on establishing our Varnashram college in Mayapur which will train. We need to have Varnashram college acharyas. We need to have Gurukul acharyas. We need to have Kshatriya acharyas who know about how to set up a community, a village, and how to go about, doing that based on the directives that are given in the Shastra. We have yet to really understand all of the type of information that is there in regards to these different subject matters. Any other quick question or comment? So, yeah, we can close, I think, now. Jai Venkata Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So I want to take this opportunity to another 5 minutes off the record.